whatever it was, last week, I guess. And I believe we'd gotten all the way through Act 1. Woohoo. So we're picking up with Act 2, and we're trying to see how much of this we can skip. Just, briefly to summarize. Edmund is continuing the fiction that Edgar is out to get Gloucester, and he tells Edgar to leave, and then he cuts himself to make it look like he and Edgar fought, and Edgar fled. Gloucester and servants come in, and Edmund tells Gloucester what he had told Edgar, okay? And he says, line 43 in Act 2, Scene 1. He says, "Persuade me to the murder of your lordship, but that I told him the revenging gods," that is, Edgar wanted to persuade me to help murder you, "but I told him that the revenging gods against parricides did all the thunder bend, spoke with how manifold and strong a bond the child was bound to the father, blah, 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 blah." And yet we know from Edmund's earlier speech, what does he think about the gods? Okay. Is it that he doesn't like them? Or that they're irrelevant? He doesn't really acknowledge the gods at all. Okay? When Gloucester says all this stuff is happening, all this stuff within the kingdom is happening and was foretold by what events? Eclipses, shooting stars, things like that. Edmund says, what a bunch of nonsense. We're bad, why? Because we choose to be bad, because we want to be bad, okay? So, Gloucester says, "Let him," Edgar, "fly far, not in this land shall he remain uncaught," etc., etc., okay? So Edmund says some things, and what he's doing with Gloucester is he's just tying himself tighter to Gloucester. Because remember, our very first introduction to Edmund was what?
Bastard speech.
Yeah. Well, before that, when Gloucester, it's right before that. It's when Gloucester introduces him to Kent. And he says, essentially, he's a bastard. Calls him this whore son. Okay? Said, but, there's a lot of pleasure in his conceiving and such. And so, Edmund says, I shall deserve studying. And that kind of means, back in that opening scene of the play, that, you ought to keep a close eye on me. So, we pick up later in Act 2, Scene 1. Cornwall, Regan, Gloucester are all talking. And Regan says, let's see here. Let me back up. Gloucester around, 88, somewhere around there. "Oh, madam, my old heart is cracked. It's cracked." "What?" Regan asks. "Did my father's godson seek your life?" My father's, Lear's, godson, Edgar. So we're told here there's a relationship other than lord to, vassal, so to speak. "Seek your life?" "Edgar," he says, "oh, lady, shame would have it hid." Why? Because it's horrible for a parent to have to publicly announce, "my child wants me dead." And yet, what does that tell us about Regan and Goneril? Because they both want their father dead. So, Regan says, "No marvel then, though he were ill affected. 'Tis they have put him on the old man's death, to have the expense and spoil of his revenues. I have this present evening from my sister been well informed of them, and with such cautions, that if they come to sojourn at my house, I'll not be there." Who's the they she's talking about? Lear and his retinue. Remember, Lear's already gone where? He's gone to Goneril's house. And what does she say?
Cut your men down.
You got to reduce your men. I can't I can't support 100 men. So he says, fine, and he gives that great curse, one of Shakespeare's great curses, stillborn children and all that kind of stuff. He says, I'll go to Regan. Now Regan is saying, not coming to my house. So, Act 2, Scene 2. We see Oswald and Kent, and we're going to skip most of this, or quite a bit of it. But, who is Oswald? Goneril's retainer, or her serving man. Okay? What does Kent think of Goneril? What does Kent think of Oswald? He's pompous, not very highly. Describe Kent. Honorable. What's he do for a living? Is he an advisor to the king? He's a soldier. He's a soldier. In the speech to Lear, when Lear banishes him, he said he ever considered his life what? A pawn for the king's interests. Okay? So, Oswald says, line 13, what dost thou know me for? Kent kind of gives him a full-throated, honest, open answer. A knave, a rascal, an eater of broken meats, a base, proud, shallow, beggarly, three-suited, 100-pound, filthy worsted stocking knave, a lily-livered, action-taking whoreson, glass-gazing, super-serviceable, finical rogue, one trunk-inheriting slave, one that wouldst be a bawd, in way of good service, that is, would sell your duties. Okay? And art nothing but the composition of a knave, beggar, coward, pander, and son and heir of a mongrel bitch. Now that is one of Shakespeare's great put-downs. And he's known for his good put-downs. And so what we see in this scene is Kent just beats him up. Okay? Edmund, Gloucester, Cornwall, Regan, etc. come in. And they put Kent in stocks. He said, no, you're not going to do that. I'm the king's man. I serve the king. Does he say, I'm Kent? Why not? Because he's now going by the name Caius. Okay? Why else? Kent's been banished. Exactly. So they could kill him if they wanted to. Okay? So they go back and forth. And Cornwall says, why do you call him a knave? What's his fault? For what reason? His countenance likes me not. Now, you got to turn the syntax around a little bit. What has Kent really said? I don't like how he looks. Line 90. Act 2, Scene 2, page 1222, right-hand column. Why dost thou call him knave? Cornwall asked. What is his fault? His countenance likes me not. I don't like how he looks. Why? Because Oswald is dressed to the nines. It's like he's in a dinner outfit. And Kent, he's kind of grubby. Okay? If you watch the Amazon Prime version, you see the transformation of Kent. And I can't remember the actor's name, but this guy's got this great, deep, gravelly voice. And, we see him in the mirror shaving. So he shaves his head, he shaves his beard off, and he looks kind of rough and tumble when he becomes Keys. Okay? So they put Kent in the stocks. And Gloucester comes out and says, I tried to tell him not to. I'm going to intercede on your behalf. And he goes, don't worry about it. Why not worry about it? He's been on his feet for so long. He's been serving his Lord. It gives him a time to sleep. Okay? So, 143. Gloucester begs Cornwall not to put Kent in stocks. He says, let me beseech your grace not to do so. His fault is much. That is, he shouldn't have beat up Oswald. Okay. And the good king, his master, will check him for it. That is, the king will take care of it. Your purpose, low correction, is such as bases and contemns wretches for pilferings and most common trespasses. That is, you put low-life scum in the stocks. You don't put a servant of the king king won't take it well. So, what authority and power does Lear have? Now, when he divided the kingdom, he said, I retain to myself title of king, okay, and some of the perquisites of power. But he doesn't retain, authority over the kingdom. Cornwall, I'll answer to it. That is, I don't care what the king will say. Okay? So, that's when Gloucester says, I'll try and, intercede. Kent, pray do not. I've watched and traveled hard. Sometime I shall sleep out. Well, if you've ever seen real stocks or had an opportunity to put yourself in them, they're not comfortable. I mean, real stocks, you put your legs through, and your hands through, and your head through. Okay? So it's not like you can get comfortable anyway. In the Amazon version, all they do is they essentially handcuff his arms behind him, put him on his knees, and put a hood over his head. So, into that scene, Kent gets a little speech and says, Good king that must approve the common saw, thou out of heaven's benedictions comest to the warm sun. Approach, thou beacon, to this under globe, that by thy comfortable beams I may peruse this letter. Nothing almost sees miracles but misery. I know 'tis, that is the letter, is from Cordelia, who hath most fortunately been informed of my obscured course, and shall find time from this enormous state, seeking to give losses their remedies. Cordelia knows what Kent is about, that he is still serving her father. Okay? Edgar comes in, 2-3. And what do we see Edgar do? Exact same thing that Kent has done. Kent becomes unkent. He becomes Keys. Edgar becomes who? Poor Tom. Poor Tom of Bedlam. That is, Tom's crazy. Okay? So, we get a speech by Edgar as Tom, and Lear, the fool, and the gentleman come in. And they see Kent. There's Kent in the stocks. And Kent tells him, your son and daughter did this to me. Or son-in-law and daughter. No. Line 14, I guess. Yes, no, I say. I say, yea. They would not. They have. By Jupiter, I say no. By Juno, I swear yes. That is, I see your Jupiter, and I raise you one Juno, They would not do it. And Kent goes on, then a long speech from 26 to 44, and explains how, yes, in fact, they did do this. Okay, why does Lear think, no, they would never do this? I'm still the king. You are still my serving men. There's a problem, okay? The whole great chain of being, remember, it's totally knocked out of whack because of what Lear does at the beginning of the play. Okay? Lear, 55. Oh, how this mother swells up toward my heart. Hysterica passio down. That is, hysterical passion down. This is second or third time we've seen Lear refer to his madness. It's bubbling. It's about to totally break forth. Okay? So, Gloucester comes in, and the king tells him, 99, the king would speak with Cornwall, though dear father would with his daughter speak, commands, tends service. That is, commands her to tend service to him. Are they informed of this? He's kind of like, hello, does anybody know I'm here? When nature, top of the next page, line 106, when nature being oppressed commands the mind to suffer with the body, I'll forbear and am fallen out with my more headier will to take the indisposed and sickly fit for the sound man. He looks at Kent. Death on my state, wherefore should he sit here? Death on my state. What's he mean? It's kind of like saying death on my state of kingship. By them doing this to Kent, what does it really mean? You don't have power anymore. We're not afraid of you. You don't have authority. Yet, when Kent as Gaius went to Lear and said, I would serve you, Lear said, why? He says, you have that about you. And he says, what? Authority. Okay? So, Lear goes on. Give me my servant forth. Go tell the Duke and his wife I would speak with them presently. Gloucester says, I would have all well twixt you. In other words, I just want you to be friends again, have family. It's Christmas time, you know. Oh me, my heart, my rising heart, but down. Why heart? See, we tend to think of the heart as, oh, it's the seat of love. Whether familial love, romantic love, it's love. And love is always good. No. The heart is the seat of passion. Passion can be rage, not good. Okay? What should be the controlling thing of the human being? The mind. And the heart is overtaking the mind. Okay? So, Regan and the others come in. And she says to him, line 137, take patience. That is, calm down, calm down. I have hope you less know how to value her desert than she too scant her duty. I hope you will value what she is offering to you, then you will say she's not living up to her obligation to you. Lear, say that again. How is that? I cannot think my sister in the least would fail her obligation. Now, you must have misunderstood. If, sir, perchance she have restrained the riots of your followers, 'tis on such ground as such wholesome inn as clears her from all blame. That is, your followers must be a little too rowdy. And we can't blame her for wanting you to calm that down. My curses on, because he's already said those. You are old. How old is he? Lear tells us towards the end of the play, he's 80. Okay? Anthony Hopkins, if I remember right, just turned 80 last year or so. So in that big, long interview he did in a newspaper, I think it was the Guardian, the UK Guardian, he said, I did Lear at 48. Now at 80, he says, I never should have done Lear at 48. You really need to be 80. And I'll just say this. He's the best Lear I've seen. And I've seen a bunch of Lears. And I've watched, film versions of, everybody going back to Olivier. Hopkins especially the mad parts, man, he really makes you think he's Lear. So he goes on. She goes on, Nature in you stands on the very verge of his confine. Nature on the very verge of his confine. What does she mean? You got one foot in the grave, old man. Okay? You should be ruled and led by some discretion that discerns your state better than you yourself. She seems to be saying, Dad, you're losing your mind. You should be ruled by someone who isn't losing their mind, by someone who can better discern what is best for you. And again, if my supposition that Lear is suffering from Alzheimer's, which is possible, they wouldn't know it at the time, they didn't have the term, this is totally perfect good reason on the part of Regan, saying, you're not yourself all the time, therefore you ought to have somebody who knows what's best for you act on your behalf. Whether or not that is Regan and Goneril, I think is, actually that's not up to debate. Cordelia, yes, not those two. Therefore I pray you that to our sister you do make return. And, what's the next line? That's the part, that's the killer in the deal. He can't really say that he was wrong. Ask her forgiveness. Notice Lear interprets, say that you wronged her to mean ask her forgiveness. Doesn't necessarily mean asking her forgiveness. Okay? Do you but mark how this becomes the house? And he kneels. I confess that I am old. Age is unnecessary. On my knees I beg that you'll vouchsafe me raiment, bed, and food. That is, this is what you want me to do? Get on my knees in front of Goneril and say essentially this. Oh, dear daughter, I beg from you raiment, bed, and food. Notice those three things are what? Necessaries. Those are necessities of life. Raiment, clothing. Why? You go out on a cold day, you freeze. Bed. Is he asking for a big giant four-poster? No, just, mat of straw maybe. Food, slop, gruel. No, come on, stop, get up. Stop this. These are unsightly tricks. But that is kind of what she means. Okay? Never, Regan. She hath abated me of half my train. Looked black upon me, struck me with her tongue. She said things I didn't like to hear. Most serpent-like upon the very heart. Okay? So he's essentially saying, no, I'm yours for the next month. Cornwall, fie, sir. Lear, you nimble lightnings, dart your blinding flames into her scornful eyes, infect her beauty, you fin-sucked fogs, drawn by the powerful sun to fall in blister. Oh, the blessed gods! So will you wish on me when the rash mood is on. Regan realizes if he can say this about his eldest daughter, he can easily say this about her. No, I would never say such things. Why? Thou shalt never have my curse. Thy tender-hearted nature shall not give thee o'er to harshness. What if her tender-hearted nature does give her o'er to harshness? Her eyes are fierce, but thine do comfort. 'Tis not in thee to grudge my pleasures, to cut off my train. No, you'll let me have my 100. Long speech, and Regan finally says, what's your point? To the purpose. Some of you might get papers back from me where you've got a comment and I put, so? That means, what's your point? Okay? What's your point? Who put my man in the stocks? And we hear a trumpet. Notice, Cornwall and Regan don't immediately answer, who put my man in the stocks? Because if they did, what would happen? You nimble lightnings, you dart your blinding flames, it would fall on them. Okay? So, let's see. Goneril comes in. And Goneril says, how have I offended? Line 196. All's not offense that indiscretion finds, and dotage terms so. It's not offense if I point out that's the fines. Your indiscretion. You're not acting discreetly, Father. Lear, oh, sides, you are too tough. Sides. Look at your gloss, 198. Sides of the chest, stretched by the swelling heart. Why are they too tough? because his heart wants to break. Not break like implode, it wants to burst. Okay? And I've seen some versions of this where Lear does this, meaning his mind's about to burst. So he's trying to hold it in. How came my man in the stocks? Cornwall. I set him there. His own disorders just... You, I pray you, Father, being weak, seems so. How is he weak? Well, he's old. He's a little weak upstairs. If till the expiration of your month you will return and sojourn with my sister, dismissing half your train, come then to me. So notice what she's just said. When you come to me, you can come with how many? 50. That is, you're going to dismiss half your train when you go to my sister's. Come with that same number. I am now from home. Where are they? They're not at Cordelia, they're not at Regan's and Cornwall's house. Okay? I remember right there at Gloucester's. Return to her? 50 men dismissed? No, rather, bit of foreshadowing. I abjure all roofs and choose to wage against the enmity of the air. To be a comrade with the wolf and owl. Return? With her? Why, the hot-blooded France that dowerless took our youngest. No, it's kind of like, I don't want to think about that. Return with her? Goneril says, at your choice, that is, it's up to you. You can come back, but only 50. I pray thee, daughter, do not make me mad. I will not trouble thee, my child. Farewell, we'll no more meet, no more see one another. But yet thou art my flesh, my blood, my daughter, or rather disease that's in my flesh, which I must needs call mine. Thou art a boil, a plague sore, or embossed carbuncle in my corrupted blood. Okay, all three of those images. A boil, a plague sore, an embossed carbuncle, are all things that eventually will what? Yeah. Okay? So, she's a festering wound. But I'll not chide thee. Let shame come when it will, I do not call it. So, he says, I can stay with Regan. Me and my 100 knights. Not altogether so. I look not for you yet, nor am provided for your fit welcome. That is, I don't have provisions to feed you and your knights. You got to go back to my sisters until I can get provisions. With your 50. You mean it? Is this well spoken? Come on, 50 followers, is it not well? Really, do you need more than 50? 50 men? What should you need of more? Yea, or so many. And what do they start to do? 50, 50, 50. Do I hear 45? Do I hear 45? 40, 40, 40, 30, 40. And they start going down. How in one house should many people under two commands hold amity? What are the two commands? Goneril, Albanese, and their men. Lear and his men. Regan, Cornwall, their men, and Lear's men. What happens when you have too many armed men under a single roof, carousing and drinking? You get bar fights, right? So, Goneril, why might not you, my lord, receive attendance from those that she calls servants, or mine? What has she just said? Not literally, why might you not be served by my servants or hers? I mean, literally, that's easily understood. What's underneath that?
Have no attendance.
And no attendance of your own. If he has no attendance of his own, what does that do to Lear's sense of self-worth? Who doesn't have any attendance? Poor people. Poor people. Because even the middle class in Shakespeare's day had attendants. They had servants. Okay? Maybe not a lot. Why not, my lord? Regan goes on. If then they chance to slack ye, we could control them. That is, if my servants didn't serve you properly, well, I could call them up on that. If you will come to me, I entreat you to bring but 5 and 20. So now Goneril's 50 has been halved. To no more will I give thee place or notice. So Lear's thinking, wait a second, we started off with 100 here. Goneril cut me down to 50. Now you're cutting me down to 25. So if I go back to Goneril, I have twice 25. I'll go back to Goneril. I gave you all. All what? The kingdom. Who's the you? Both of them. I gave you everything, Regan. Oh, and this tells us a lot. And in good time you gave it. Yeah, it's about time, old man. I mean, this could be, change the genders. Make Lear Queen Lear, and rather than Regan or Queen Elizabeth, and have Regan be Charles. And in good time, you know, you're sitting there, old Biddy, you just keep on going like the ever ready bunny, and you won't die. Okay? Lear made you my guardians, my depositaries, but kept a reservation to be followed with such a number. That is, he's talking about it. I love how they do this in the BBC Amazon version. They have Lear hold kind of like a copy of the document that spelled out who got what and what the provisions were. And he's like, I spelled out right here. Here's the written proof. Okay? And he keeps this in his hands almost throughout the entirety of the play. Okay? Why must I come to you with 5 and 20? Said you so? And speak it again. Yep, and I double down on that. No more. Those wicked creatures yet do look well favored when others are more wicked. Not being the worst stands in some rank of praise. That is, well, wow, standing next to you, Goneril looks pretty good in this light. I'll go with thee. Thy 50 yet doth double, 5 and 20, and thou art twice her love. Notice, she'll give me 50, that means she loves me twice as much as you do. Hear me, my lord. What need you 5 and 20? 10 or 5? To follow in a house where twice so many have a command to tend you. And then Regan's like, she pulls the stiletto out and gets ready to run it through his heart. What need 1? Now, I can't think of a production that's done this, but I think it'd be really cool to have her point at Kent, who's in the stocks. What need you even 1? Lear. Big foreshadowing speech, kind of prefiguring, presaging Act 3, scenes 1 and following. Oh, reason not the need. Okay? And Shakespeare's getting to a big point here. Our basest beggar, excuse me, our basest beggars are in the poorest thing superfluous. Lowest of the low are in the poorest thing superfluous. Look at your gloss. Even our most destitute beggars have some wretched possessions beyond what they absolutely need. Okay? Allow not nature more than nature needs, Man's life is cheap as beasts. In other words, if you don't allow humanity more than what it needs at its very basest, then man is nothing more than an animal. This is part of what Shakespeare is getting at in the play. What is man? Humanity. What really? Remember Hamlet? What a thing is man. He goes on that great speech, paragon of excellence, etc. So, thou art a lady. He's pointing probably at Regan, because she said, what need you one? Thou art a lady. If only to go warm were gorgeous, why, nature needs not what thou gorgeous wear'st, which scarcely keeps thee warm. What does he mean? How is she dressed? How should she be dressed? Very sumptuously. I mean, she's got on a great, like a ball gown. Is a ball gown something good to wear when it's 20 degrees outside? Is it good to wear even outside, really? Not likely. He's saying, you're a lady, you're in gorgeous clothing, but it scarcely keeps you warm. Why are you wearing that? What's the purpose? But for true need, oh heavens, give me that patience. Patience I need. You see me here, you gods. He's not addressing his daughters, he's addressing the gods. A poor old man, as full of grief as age, wretched in both. If it be you that stirs these daughters' hearts against their father, fool me not so much to bear it tamely. That is, don't make me such a fool as to bear it tamely. No, I'm going to rage against this. Touch me with noble anger, and let not women's weapons, water drops, stain my man's cheeks. That is, don't let me cry. No, you unnatural hags. Now he's talking about his daughters. I will have such revenges on you both that all the world shall. I will do such things. And notice he can't really come up with what he's going to do. Why? What's happening? That heart is rising, that mind is breaking, he's losing all sanity. What they are yet, I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth. You think I'll weep? No, I'll not weep. And somebody off stage gets that big old piece of sheet metal and goes to create the thunder. Why is there thunder and lightning, or storm and thunder? Anger, okay, why else?
Like the chain of being.
Keep going.
Because like his anger is like the God's anger.
I think I put up here, when I first talked about the chain of being, the idea, or what's sometimes called the Doctrine of Correspondences. That is, what happens in the natural world can sometimes be reflected in the human world. It can be reflected in an individual human person. The idea of microcosm and macrocosm. Well, the macrocosm, the natural world, is now in a state of turmoil. Why? Because Lear is in a state of turmoil. The thunder and storm, they're going on up here. Yeah, it's a real storm, okay? But it is merely the overflow of the storm that's going on in the king. I have full cause of weeping. This heart shall break into 100,000 flaws, or ere I'll weep. And guess what? It does. His heart is shattered. And then what happens? Oh, he weeps, all right. He totally weeps. Oh, fool, I shall go mad. And he leaves. Where does he go? Outside into the storm. Why? Because this, This is reflecting to us where Lear needs to be. Because in the storm is what? Outside civilization, outside reason, outside rationality, outside comfort. Cornwall, let us withdraw. 'Twill be a storm. Oh, yeah. This house is little. The old man and his people cannot be well bestowed. It's his own fault, Goneril. Okay? So, Gloucester goes off to find Lear. And Gloucester comes back. The king is in high rage. Whither is he going? He calls to horse, but I know not whither. Cornwall, best to give him way. He leads himself. Well, what's the old adage about the blind leading the blind? Because the same thing applies to the mad. Okay? Gloucester. The night comes on, and the bleak winds do sorely ruffle. Line 303. For many miles about there's scarce a bush. So, why is it important that there's scarce a bush? What's Gloucester's point? There will be no shelter for the king. Regan. Oh, sir, to wilful men the injuries that they themselves procure must be their schoolmasters. In other words, he has to learn from his mistakes. He gets what he deserves. Shut up your doors. That kind of means, and if you hear a, don't let him in. He is attended with a desperate train. How desperate is his train? Well, it's not 100. It's not 50. It's not 25. How many is it? 2. Who are they? Kent and the Fool. And then later, Tom is going to show up. And what they may incense him to, being apt to have his ear abused, wisdom bids fear. Okay? 3-1. Who's there besides foul weather? Kent, several gentlemen, etc. And the gentleman says, one minded like the weather, most quietly. Minded like. That is, one with a mind like the weather. Crazy. Where's the king? Contending with the fretful elements. Kind of like Miguel Cervantes, Don Quixote, who does what? Tilts against windmills and thunderstorms. Bids the wind blow the earth into the sea or swell the curled waters above the main, that things might change or cease, tears his white hair with the impetuous blast, with eyeless rage, etc., etc. Kent, who's with them? Just the fool. So, Kent says, I'm going to give you a command, and I'm going to tell you some things. There is division, line 19. There is division, although as yet the face of it is covered with mutual cunning. Division where? Twixt Albany and Cornwall. Notice, though, Kent says, the division is not what? It's not yet apparent. Why? Because with mutual cunning, Cornwall is trying to outdo Albany, and Albany is trying to outdo Cornwall, who have, as who have not, that their great stars throned and set high. That is, they want to set their throne the highest. And I think there's probably a biblical allusion or an extra biblical allusion to Satan, who wanted to do what? Rise up above the Most High. Okay? Who's the Most High here? It's Lear. It's the king. Servants who seem no less, which are to France, the spies and speculations and television of our state. So, what hath been seen, either in snuffs and packings of the dukes, or the hard reign which most of them have borne against the old kind king, or something deeper, whereof perchance these are but furnishings, but true it is, from France there comes a power into this scattered kingdom. What's he telling this gentleman? France has landed on the coast. Okay, now, who is France? Cordelia's husband. Okay, so Cordelia and her husband have landed. And where are they? Dover. So, if on my credit you dare build so far to make your speed to Dover, you shall find some that will thank you. Making just report of how unnatural and bematting sorrow the king hath caused to pain. Go to Dover, tell those that are there what's going on with the king. He says, I'm a gentleman of blood and breeding, and from some knowledge and assurances offer this office to you. The gentleman says, okay. 3-2. Lear comes in. Blow winds and crack your cheeks, rage, howl, blow, you cataracts and hurricanes, etc., etc. And the fool's like, can we go inside? Oh, nuncle, court holy water in a dry house is better than this rainwater out of door. That is, it's better to be anointed with holy water in a dry house for what? For illness, okay? Than to have all this deluge on us outside. Here's a knight pities neither wise men nor fools. That is, we could die in this. Okay? Lear goes on, talking about children. And we're going to skip a bunch. Kent comes in. And Kent says, 42 or so, in Act 3, Scene 2, Alas, sir, are you here? Things that love night, love not such nights as these. I think Kent partially means by that, I'm a man of the night. I'm used to doing things at night. But I don't like this kind of night. The wrathful skies gallow the very wanderers of the dark and make them keep their caves. Since I was a man, such sheets of fire, such bursts of horrid thunder, such groans of roaring wind and rain I never remember to have heard. Man's nature cannot carry the affliction nor the fear. That is, this is enough to kill someone. This is too much for our frail nature to bear. Lear, let the great gods that keep this dreadful pother o'er our heads find out their enemies now. He's kind of saying, come on. Take your best shot. Why? Well, Lear, kind of like Gloucester in a few moments, Lear wants to die. He's had enough. Tremble, thou wretch, that hast within the undivulged crimes unwhipped of justice. Okay? And Lear's going to start talking about, not only in this immediate scene, but in the next couple of scenes, aspects of kingship that maybe he didn't pay enough attention to when he was king. Right? Like justice. So, tremble thou wretch that hast within thee undivulged crimes unwhipped of justice. Tremble, you who are guilty of some crime that hasn't been found out by the law. Chaucer has a phrase in, I think it's the Nun's Prior's Tale, murder will out. That is, fate will determine actions so that the guilty will be made known. Hide thee, thou bloody hand, murderer, thou perjured, the one who perjures, not the one who's lied against, and thou simular, pretender of a virtue that art incestuous. Caitiff, to pieces shake that under covert and convenient seeming has practiced on man's life. Close pent-up guilts, rive your concealing countenance, and cry these dreadful summoners grace. I am a man more sinned against than sinning. Is Lear saying that he has hidden guilt? No. By saying, I'm a man more sinned against than sinning, he's saying, I've not been a bad king. Though, shortly, he's going to imply a little bit of the opposite. Kent, alack, bareheaded, meaning literally he doesn't have a cap on. But what else does that mean? Kind of like exposed directly to the gods. Gracious my Lord, here's a hovel. Some friendship will it lend you against the tempest. Repose you there while I to this hard house, more harder than the stones whereof 'tis raised, which even but now, demanding after you, denied me to come in. That is, he went back to the house where Reagan and Goneril were, banged on the door, and nobody let him in. So here's a hovel. Let's stay there until I can go back here. Essentially break in. Where is this straw, my fellow? Lear says. Now, back up. Return and force their stand in courtesy. Lear, my wits begin to turn. Now, that is an element of sanity in Lear. Why? Because he hasn't hit bottom yet. Lear hasn't yet gone 100% mad. He will. He's got to hit the bottom before he can rise. Come on, my boy. How dost, my boy? Art cold? Who's the my boy? The fool. I'm cold myself. Where is this straw? That is, where is this hovel you speak of? The art of our necessities is strange. It can make vile things precious. The art of our necessities. If you are really, really cold, what can seem very, very warm or comforting? Down blanket? No. Anything. A piece of cardboard. Okay? That's why, you don't see it as much in Murfreesboro. When I would, do courses in London, walk down posh areas of London, walk down seedier areas of London, on the way to the British Museum. Guys sleeping in doorways. Piece of cardboard over them. That's it. New York, dead of winter, January, 2 degrees, piece of cardboard. Why? That's all they had. He's saying necessity can make what precious? Anything. Come, your hovel. Poor fool and knave, I have one part in my heart that's sorry yet for thee. If he has one part of his heart that is sorry yet for the knave, for the fool,
I'm having trouble with the connection.
Shut up.
Please try.
Shut up. What is Lear saying? Or what's that show on Lear? At the beginning of the play, pretty much everybody universally said, what characterizes Lear? By wanting his daughters to tell him how much they love him, shows he's a what? Narcissist. Here, he's thinking of what? Somebody else. So, they go in. And the fool gives a prophecy. Lots been written about this prophecy. When priests are more in word than matter. When brewers mar their malt with water. When nobles are their tailors' tutors, no heretics burn, but wenches' suitors, then shall the realm of Albion come to great confusion. The realm of Albion. Albion's a very old name for Britain. Okay? So, when are priests more in word, what they say, than in matter, than in what they do? Well, some would say you got to go back, to pretty much the second generation after Christ died, is when, the church started going bad. Why? Because priests started being more in word than in their actual deeds. I mean, Chaucer talks about this in the Canterbury Tales, where you have most of the religious people who are nothing but scum because they don't do what they talk about. Okay? So, when every case in law is right. Yeah, when's that going to happen? No squire in debt, nor no poor knight, when slanders do not live in tongues. What's the difference between slander and libel? Libel's in print, slander is in tongue. When you say something about somebody that you know isn't true, and you're trying to malign their character. Nor cut purses come to throngs. Go in London during the summer, and there will be certain tube stops that will have pictures of handbags with a knife stuck in them. Why? Because it's a pickpocket area. Or hands reaching into purses and such. When usurers tell their gold in the field, and bawds and whores do churches build. Bawds, madams, pimps, whores, self-explanatory. Then comes the time, who lives to see it, that going shall be used with fiat, that is feet. Okay? So, 3-3. Gloucester, talking to Edmund. I'd like not this unnatural dealing, these unnatural acts. Showing us Gloucester is what? He's going to physically become this in just a few moments. He is blind as a bat. Who is the most unnatural dealing in the play? It's Edmund. Against his brother, against his father. He's got the two sisters. Okay? He's plotting against their husbands. Okay? Edmund, most savage and unnatural. There is division between the dukes. So Kent has noticed the division. Gloucester has noticed the division. Does anybody else? That is, Edmund has. But does Albany know that Cornwall is plotting against him? Does Cornwall know that? No, they don't. I have locked the letter in my closet. What letter?
About their fighting against each other.
No.
About France.
The letter about France and Cordelia having landed on the coast. Okay. So, Gloucester says, don't tell anybody about it. And what does Edmund promptly do? He exactly does that. He tells them about it. So, 3-4. We get Lear, Kent, and the Fool again. And Kent tries to get Lear to go inside the hovel. And Lear says, let me alone. Enter here. Will break my heart. That is, quit kind of giving me commands. I had rather break mine own. Enter here. Thou thinkst 'tis much, line 6. Thou thinkst 'tis much that this contentious storm invades us to the skin. So 'tis to thee. That is, it's contentious to you. Why? But where the greater malady is fixed, the lesser scarce felt. Thou shalt a bear, but if thy flight lay toward the roaring sea, thou'dst meet the bear in the mouth. When the mind's free, the body's delicate. This tempest in my mind doth from my senses take all feeling else, save what beats there. How is Lear speaking here? He's not mad at all. This is clear. This is lucid. What's he saying? The storm bothers you, Keys. Why? Because up here, everything's peaceful for you. Me, storm doesn't bother me at all. Why? Because I'm going ape, you know what, crazy. He knows he's going crazy. See, that's the point. Lear is totally aware that there are moments when he is gone. And that's what scares him. That's why, the more I think about it, the more I think Lear's got Alzheimer's. Because he has these moments of crystal clear lucidity. Okay?
But isn't he ready to die?
Yeah, but dying is not the same as losing one's sanity. Especially if you don't die for a while.
That's why he's not afraid of the storm. It
Yeah. And because it physically doesn't bother him because he's preoccupied. How many of you have ever been, so preoccupied with something up here, you've forgotten something, so to speak, out here, like to eat? You've been studying so hard or something, and you realize a lot of time's gone by. Okay? That's kind of what he's getting at. I remember a time, my dad used to be a preacher, and I remember one time, friend of the family was going through a lot of problems. I mean, the guy was really severely depressed, like suicidal depressed. And, what this guy needed, and if you've ever been really, really depressed, you realize the truth of this. What this guy needed was something to take his mind off of things. And what he needed was work. That is just hard manual labor. So my dad gave him, some jobs to do. Just hard physical work. So that at the end of 8 or 10 hours, he was so exhausted, he couldn't think. He just crashed. And it took about a week of that. Just day after day after day after day. And after that, the mind cleared a little, was able to look at things in a more rational. But that's the difference between depression and what Lear is going through. Is because with depression, you can come out of that tunnel. Lear can't. Lear looks in that tunnel, what does he see? It's just getting closed more and more and more because he knows, especially if this is Alzheimer's, what's going to eventually happen. It's going to close up entirely. And there won't be any moments of lucidity again. The tempest in my mind doth from my senses take all feeling else save what beats there. Filial ingratitude. That's what beats in his mind. My daughters are bitches. As he's already said. It's not me saying that, it's Lear saying that. It is not as this mouth should tear this hand for lifting food to it, but I will punish home. In other words, I'm going to get them. No, I'll weep no more. In such a night to shut me out. Pour on, I will endure in such a night as this. O Regan Goneril, your old kind father, whose frank heart gave all. Oh, that way madness lies. That is, if I think too much about that, I give them everything, and they in return give him what? Zip. Enter here, my lord. No, go in thyself. Seek thine own ease. This tempest will not give me leave to ponder on things would hurt me more. So, he tells the fool, go in, boy, you first. You houseless poverty. Go on. I'll pray and then I'll sleep. So the fool goes into the hovel. Now, who's left alone on the stage? I mean, you've got the hovel possibly on the stage like a tent, or the hovel might be represented by one of the doors. So they go in. So Lear's alone on the stage. Possibly. Could be a soliloquy, may not. But look at what Lear says. This is why I think it's so important. If it is a soliloquy, it's expressing what? Lear's innermost thoughts, what he really believes to be true. Poor, naked wretches, wheresoe'er you are, that bide the pelting of this pitiless storm, how shall your houseless heads and unfed sides, your looped and windowed raggedness, defend you from seasons such as these? Who's he talking about? Homeless, the poor. And I love how they did this in the BBC version. Because they don't have Lear and Kent and the fool totally alone. They have them in a place where there are all these little ramshackle kind of tents, and there are these people, and they're just huddling and shivering and shaking. And Lear sees them. Okay? How's he describing them? Houseless heads. That is, they have no homes. Unfed sides, they're hungry. Your looped and windowed raggedness, he's talking about the quality of the clothing they are wearing. They are in rags. They have pieces of fabric that are looped around to create a covering. Okay? Defend you from seasons such as these. And what is Lear angry about his daughters, at his daughters about? That they won't allow him to have his 100 nights. So why does he say this? This is the bing, the light bulb coming on. About Lear thinking, when I was king, real king, not king in name only, real king. How do I know? I have taken too little care for this. For this what? The poor. What is he taken too much care for? Himself. Just think about it. Cost-benefit analysis for a moment. He's got 100 nights. How much food is required to feed 100 nights? How many poor could be fed by the food required to feed 100 nights? You think only 100 people? Oh, I don't think so. Probably more like 500 people. Okay? This is, the proverbial chickens coming home to roost. Up here, Lear is thinking, I've been a damn fool. Take physic pomp. Pomp. What's pomp mean? Your gloss, 33. Cure yourself, O distempered great ones. That's a nice poetic way of translating that. It's not really what it means, but if somebody is a pompous ass, what's the pompous part mean? Louder? Full of himself. When you walk at graduation, everybody plays Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance. What's the pomp part? Pride. Ceremony. Take physic. Ceremony. Take physic. Pomp. One full of oneself. What's the physic? It's medicine. What's Lear's medicine? Because the pomp is himself. It's seeing this hungry person, and this hungry person, and this hungry person, and this hungry person, and this hungry person. That's how he can, quote unquote, heal himself. Okay? Expose thyself to feel what wretches feel. Because prior to this storm, how often has Lear had to feel what wretches feel? Probably never. That thou may shake the superflux to them and show the heavens more just. What's the superflux? Go back to, O reason not the need. Our basest beggars are in the poorest thing superfluous. That was Lear speaking in his pompousness. When he said, our basest beggars are in the, basest thing superfluous. Now, he's really thinking about what really is the basest thing. Whether he sees the poor or not, he's what? He's thinking of the poor guy who's out in the rainstorm, who doesn't have any shelter other than a tree, an overpass. So, take physic pomp, expose thyself to feel what wretches feel, that thou may shake. What's the superflux? Oh, it could be everything from taking off the multiplicity of clothes one wears. If your neighbor lacks a coat and you have two, Christ says, do what? Give him one of yours. St. John Chrysostom, one of the early fathers of the church, goes even farther. Take off both of yours. St. Basil, another early father of the church, I taught, of course, several times called Early Christian Literature of the Middle East. And students really had a problem reading St. Basil the Great because he has this bunch of kind of homilies on the poor. And he said, if you have a closet full of clothes, you're a thief. Why? Because there are people who have no clothes. And so if you've got a closet full of clothes, you are a thief. You are stealing those clothes from somebody else. That's pretty hard to read. Okay? So, the superflux can be everything from, I've got on 2 shirts, take this one off, to what else? His attitude about himself. Because Lear, prior to this, thought what? I'm the king. And now, seeing maybe in, I'll use Christ again, the least of these, Matthew 25, where he talks about the parable of the Last Judgment. And show the heavens more just. Is that showing that the heavens are just? Or showing more justice on my part to the heavens? Show there can mean prove. Tom, within. Because the fool and Kent have gone within. So the implication is the hovel's not just, this little small 6 by 6 foot thing. They go in and we hear fathom and half, poor Tom. And the fool comes out. And Tom acts how? Edgar/Tom acts how? Crazy. Okay? Lear asks, do you have daughters? And Kent's like, he doesn't have any daughters. Get off the daughters. Death traitor, line 68 or so. Nothing could have subdued nature to such aloneness but his unkind daughters. Is it the fashion that discarded fathers? Blah, 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 blah. So, Lear asks Tom, what have you been? That is, what have you done in your life? Line 84. The serving man. That is, a courtier. I've been like a knight. Proud in heart and mind, that curled my hair, wore gloves in my cap, served the lust of my mistress's heart, and did the act of darkness with her. Swore as many oaths as I spake words, and broke them in the sweet face of heaven. So what's he saying about serving men/courtiers? They're lying scum. What else? One that slept in the contriving of lust and waked to do it. Fell asleep in the act of lust and woke up to do it again. Wine loved I deeply, dice dearly, and in woman, out paramored the Turk. Turks were supposed to be very licentious, lusty. He goes, and I was better than them, Hugh Hefner had nothing on me. False of heart, light of ear, bloody of hand, hog in sloth, fox in stealth, wolf in greediness, dog in madness, lion in prey. Let not the creaking of shoes nor the rustling of silks betray thy poor heart to woman. Now, what does this do to Lear's madness? Oh yeah, you're right, buddy. You can't trust women, Keep thy foot out of brothels, thy hand out of plackets. Yeah, slits in skirts or petticoats. Hand out of plackets, lost my line. Thy pen from lender's books, and defy the foul fiend. Still through the hawthorn blows the cold wind, says some nani, Dolphin, my boy, says Lear. Thou wert better in a grave than to answer with thy uncovered body this extremity of the skies. You'd be better dead than to be alive out here. Is man no more than this? Then what? How's Edgar dressed? Some productions of the play he's nude.
He was in a dress
Yeah, he was kind of in a
It was like a
dress kind of kilt thing. Yes, weird. Um, and the guy who played Edgar was the one who played Moriarty in the Sherlock BBC Sherlock. He just nails Edgar. Michael Scott. He's superb. Not the Office Michael Scott,
yeah.
the real one. Um, is man no more than this? Consider him well. That is, I'm going to use him as my model. Thou owest the worm no silk. That is, you haven't taken any silk from, he's not wearing anything of silken clothing. The beast no hide, the sheep no wool, the cat no perfume. Not, cat, but like the leopard you could get perfume from. Here, three honors are sophisticated. Thou art the thing itself. What is the thing itself? Unaccommodated man. That is, unsuperfluous man. Base man, man without anything, period, is no more but such a poor, bare, forked animal as thou art. And Lear starts ripping off his clothing. Why? He's almost there. He's almost over the edge. Okay. Gloucester comes in. Edgar calls him the foul fiend Flibberty-Gibbet, which Gloss tells you, the name of an actual demon according to medieval Renaissance folklore and such. And Gloucester tells them, line 146, my duty cannot suffer to obey in all your daughter's hard commands, though their injunction be to bar my doors and let this tyrannous night take hold of you, yet I venture to, no, I'm not going to obey them, I'm going to bring you back inside, etc. Gloucester importunes Kent and says, right-hand column about line 160, his daughters seek his death. Oh, that good Kent. He said it would be thus, poor banished man. Thou sayest the king grows mad. I'll tell thee, friend, I'm almost mad myself. I had a son, now outlawed for my blood. He sought my life, but lately, very lately, I loved him, friend. No father, his son dearer. Really? Where in the play were we ever given an indication that Gloucester loved Edgar? We weren't. What about that Gloucester loved Edmund? We weren't, except when he told Edmund, after Edmund told him that Edgar wanted him dead, oh, I love you, Edmund. Words, deeds. It's all words. The deeds will come for Gloucester. Okay? So, they leave, and we get the quote that Lord Byron then takes to write Childe Roland. Childe Roland to the Dark Tower came. By the way, Stephen King also gets the title for his interminably long book series. 3-5 will skip. 3-6. They go to Gloucester's, and Kent says, all the power, line 4, all the power of his wits have given way to his impatience. The gods reward your kindness. They're not at Gloucester's yet. They're in another hovel of sorts. And Lear starts to act like there's a trial that's to occur. And Kent kind of plays along with it a little bit, as does the fool and Edgar. And line 33, Kent says to Lear, how do you, sir? Stand you not so amazed? That is, Lear, come back, Lear. Will you lie down and rest upon the cushions? I do the trial first. And so Kent and the fool and Edgar sit like they are people in this trial. Kent again, line 56 or so. Oh, pity, sir, where is the patience now that you so oft have boasted to retain? The patience now that you have so oft boasted to retain. So oft when? Not in the play. It's before. So Kent finally gets him to lie down, and Lear falls asleep. Gloucester comes in. Kent tells him his wits are gone. How do we know his wits are gone? Well, in the whole little trial scene, Lear lost all touch of reality. I mean, he was somewhere else. So, take him in thy arms, Gloucester says, 88. There's a plot of death. He says, go to Dover. Okay? So they pick up Lear, and everybody leaves but Edgar. 102. When we our betters see bearing our woes, our betters, those who are better than us. He's talking about social class. Those who are higher than we are. Okay? We scarcely think our miseries our foes. Who alone suffers most in the mind. Who alone suffers. Why? Misery? What's the next two words?
Loves company.
Loves company. Who suffers alone suffers most in the mind. When I to sessions of sweet silent thought. Remember that sonnet? Do what? Think on thee, okay? Leaving free things and happy shows behind. But then the mind much sufferance doth overskip when grief hath mates. When you have someone that you can talk with and bearing fellowship. How light and portable my pain seems now. What is Edgar's pain? My father wants to kill me. He thinks I want to kill him. My brother's a dirty, rotten scoundrel. I want to kill him. When that which makes me bend, what's that which makes him bend? Hamlet's slings and arrows of outrageous fortune? What is Edgar's outrageous fortune? He has a brother who wants him dead. He has a father who now wants him dead. Notice, but he bends. He doesn't break. He'll come back from that. But Lear, he's broken. Mark the high noises, and thyself bewray when false opinion, whose wrong thoughts defile thee, in thy just proof repeals and reconciles thee. What's he saying? In thy just proof. Look at your gloss. Observe what is being said about those in high places or about great events, and reveal your identity only when the general opinion that now slanders you, at length establishing your innocence, recalls you from banishment and restores you to favor. In other words, don't run out when everybody still thinks you're guilty and go, hey, I'm here. What would happen if he were to go to Gloucester and go, it's me, Edgar? 3:7. Let's see. What happens in 3:7? Pretty much one important thing. Two important things.
Gloucester loses his eyes.
Gloucester has his eyes put out. Why? Louder?
So he's not a witness.
So he's not a witness. Why else? It's true.
Is Edmund didn't he kind of betray his dad and give the note?
Edmund told Cornwall, Albany and such, that Gloucester, Albany, not Cornwall, told them what about Gloucester?
He knew about France.
Knew about France landing at Dover.
He was planning on getting Lear and taking Lear.
He was planning on himself doing that, okay. Why else? Those are all right.
He's also trying to help Lear escape or
Yep.
something.
To establish their authority, like we can do this.
Okay, to establish their authority. Why else? I mean, it shows us what about Regan, by the way. Oh, man, she's creepy. And almost all Regan's one of the ones who pops his eye out. Okay? There's another reason, subtextual. Those are all surface level textual. I mean, those are all reasons that the text clearly gives. Gloucester's been blind all throughout the play. Now, his physical self matches his moral self with this twist. Now that Gloucester is blind, Gloucester's going to see. He's going to, as he puts it, see feelingly. He's going to really perceive. Because what happens as soon as his eyes are put out? Edgar? Edgar's not false to you. It's Edmund that betrayed you. Okay. All right, we'll pick up there, beginning of 4:1, and we should be able to finish on whatever that day is, Tuesday.
Can we expect quiz or what do you think?
Good question.
I'm full of them.
Yeah, I can give you a quiz on Tuesday.